Well, good morning, Gummy. How are you?
I am fantastic. How about yourself?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. Um, Not too much craziness going on last week or so, but um, lots of interesting things going on in the world of my clients. Tell you that. So it's just there's a lot of crazy, a lot of people looking to start businesses, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also run into quite a few people that have businesses that they think are set up properly and they're not.
Yeah.
Like I would say in the last week, probably 4 new clients that have come over that, oh yeah, I've had this business for a couple years now and blah, blah, blah. Oh, great. What's it called? Well, it's XYZ LLC. Great. Let me look it up real quick. And it's not registered. Oh, well, I thought we could just call it LLC. No. It doesn't work like that. You have to register. It's the whole point of doing it. But don't laugh. People don't know this stuff.
No, I know.
They really don't know this stuff.
This is why we had this conversation before, right?
Yeah.
Like we have this a lot of times is like consult with someone that actually knows what they're doing, because like if you mess up, your life pretty much depends on it.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I have another guy who does have an LLC.
Yep.
But the names on his contract are not the name of the LLC. It's a different LLC that doesn't exist. The name on his business card is different than both of those. And he has a state registration for a license that is none of those 3 either.
What? Did he just make it up as he went along? Or?
Sort of. So
Sort of.
he had his wife take care of everything, and
Okay.
no knocking wives or spouses for doing things.
Yeah.
Sometimes if they know what they're doing, great. But you can make a mistake very easily. What a lot of people don't realize with an LLC or a corporation is one letter different, and it's not the same company.
Right.
So Gummies Widgets, GUMMIS space WIDGETS LLC is different than Gummy Widgets.
Yes.
Or Gummy Widget.
Yes.
Or Gummy's Favorite Widgets or something like that. They're all different company names. And people don't realize that. So this person had the name of the company was their name with their middle initial.
Okay.
No, actually it was their first and last name, LLC.
Okay.
They put their middle initial in there sometimes. Sometimes, like, I'm not going to use what their actual name was. Let's say their name was Francis. Sometimes it was Frank, right? It changes everything. People don't realize that. You can't do that.
It's kind of
so
scary.
we're going through the trouble of cleaning all that up now for them. So that stuff happens all the time.
How long has he been in business? Years?
30 years.
Oh, okay. So he's new to it.
This is what happens.
Yeah.
I said, well, let me see your tax return. Make sure you have the right name on there. Thank God they have the right name on the tax return at least. So
the CPA did something.
The CPA did something right, yeah. So anyway, that kind of stuff happens. You got to be real careful with that, right? So you got, again, remember, whatever name you register your business under, that's the name that you have to promote. And here's another thing people don't realize. If your name is XYZ Company LLC, right?
Yep.
With or without the comma, it doesn't really matter. But if it's XYZ Company LLC and you promote yourself as XYZ Company without the LLC, they're actually 2 different companies. So what you need to do is you need to register a fictitious name for XYZ Company.
Without the LLC.
XYZ Company LLC needs to have a DBA or fictitious name, XYZ Company.
Okay. So let me ask you another question, because I've wondered about this and I have to be honest, I don't know the answer.
I'm shocked.
I know. I try to know a lot. Joe, our buddy Joe that was here the other day. Yeah. He's like, oh, I always call Gummies like a walking encyclopedia. I'm like, really, Joe? But so let's say I'm a contractor.
Yeah.
And I go do a job and someone pays me in cash. And as some people might do, that invoice now disappears from my system.
Yep.
The cash magically disappears.
Yep.
A year later, that customer slaps me with a lawsuit for the work I did. Is the company now responsible, or are you responsible as an individual? Because technically you took the cash and stuck it in your pocket and there's no business transaction that exists.
Well, it depends on how deep you go,
Okay.
right? If it's a lawsuit, let's say for poor workmanship or something like that, right? If Okay, so we'll talk practicalities and then we'll talk theory. The practical side of things, your insurance picks it up and you never have to deal with it again, right? That's just the reality of it.
Okay.
You go through some depositions, they settle, it goes away. That's the practical side of things. But let's talk legal theory, okay? In legal theory, it depends on the attorney on the other side, how deep they want to dig, right?
Okay.
If they know you paid in cash, they don't necessarily know that you pocketed that cash and
Correct.
didn't. But let's say they found out.
Mhm.
Let's say they said, let's see the bank, because they will have full access to your bank accounts, right? I want your bank statements for those months where you were working for that person. And yeah, if they can prove that you pocketed that money, then the LLC is not protecting you any longer. You're personally responsible
That's right.
because what you've done. And we talked about breaking the corporate veil before, but for people that didn't hear that one, there's this, let's use this piece of paper here, right? There's this wall here, so to speak, where on this side is the LLC and over here is you as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
And if the LLC does something wrong, you can't get through this wall to get to the individual.
Right.
That's the corporate veil. But when you do certain things like commingling of funds, commingling of money,
Mm-hmm.
not treating the business like a business, you can go around that corporate veil and get to the individual.
Right.
So I would absolutely say that if you pocketed that money and it didn't make its way onto the books, which I know a lot of contractors do,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying there's not tax advice here
No.
by any means, but forget putting taxes aside, yeah, you are at risk of getting around that veil and getting to your personal assets.
Right.
So
It was an interesting question because, like I was talking to a guy probably a few months ago that's a deck builder, and he built a second-story deck, right? And the guy paid him in cash, and I looked at him and said, "Did that go into your account?"
Yeah.
Because the chances of someone getting hurt on a second-story deck is far greater than a deck
Right.
that sits 15 inches above the ground. So like I think it's once again it's a risk thing, right?
Well,
Like,
I'll tell you else what happens a lot too with contractors is even if they get a check, they take it to the check cashing place.
oh really?
Yeah, because here's what happens.
Because then it looks like a cash transaction.
Yeah,
and
because you're working for a homeowner most
Right.
of the time, right?
Yeah.
Homeowners, what aren't they sending you at the end of the year?
a W-9.
Right, it's 1099, exactly, right? They're not sending you a W-9 1099 at the end of the year. So that money's never getting reported to the IRS.
Right.
Right. Again, not tax advice. Don't do this. Bad stuff. Bad. Don't know. But
Very bad stuff.
what a lot of people do is they'll take those checks and go to a check cashing place and cash it there. Guess what? You just lost your liability protection.
Yep.
If I'm the attorney on the other side, I'm absolutely looking for that.
Oh yeah.
Where did that check hit the LLC's bank account?
Yep.
Oh, it didn't? No protection.
That's what.
Tell me how much money you have in your home.
Right.
How much equity do you have? Seriously,
No,
you laugh. It's
No,
true.
I know, but it's funny because it kind of brings me to another topic is I think a big reason, I mean, don't get me wrong, we all want to pay less in taxes, right? But like I have a meeting later today with two guys that I'm connecting because person A gave me a call and was like, I think I'm paying too much in taxes.
Mhm.
And I'm like, well, send me your balance sheet, send me your expense report. Let me take a look at it. And I would have to agree with him. Based on what he was making, he was paying way too much in taxes. And I started asking him simple questions like, are you contributing to an IRA? Are you utilizing whole life insurance policies that the business owns that you can there's all these things you can do. Yes, you won't get the cash in hand today, but that money will not be going to the IRS.
Yeah, it's still your asset.
It's still your asset. It's
Right.
going to go into long-term funding for you. And I think it's more common than not that someone starts a business, they go out, they start making money, and the only way they know to pay less taxes is by taking cash payments, right? I don't think most business owners, when they start becoming profitable, go out and say, maybe I need a tax strategy,
Yeah.
right? Like maybe I need to talk to people about how to move my profits legally out of the business without having to pay taxes on it,
Right.
right? Like, and there's all these things that can be done, like and it's all legal, it's all above board. It's literally what they want us to do.
Yeah, and before you go on, let me be very, very, very clear about this.
Mhm.
There is a huge difference between the CPA who can do your taxes at the end of the year and the CPA who's a tax strategist.
Yes.
Very different people. Sometimes they're the same, but not always.
Correct.
So make sure your CPA really understands tax strategy, because most of the CPAs I know only know how to do do the tax filings.
Correct.
They can take all your numbers, but they can't sit there with you in June and prepare for your tax filings next January
Mhm.
and help you save 40 to 50% on your taxes.
It's the same thing. Not all, like I tell people all the time, if you're a business owner, you should have a financial advisor, right?
Yeah.
But you should have a financial advisor that understands small businesses specifically, because once again, it's an industry. Not everybody does everything well, right? Like some people are experts in helping police and fire department because like that retirement process, for example.
Yeah, right. It's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing, right? Like it's very good to have someone that's really good at that. Well, find someone that's really good at small business and understands all the little things that are allowed for us small business owners to actually do, right? Like they should be able to explain to you if you set up an IRA, for example, right? When it's just, let's say it's just you and your spouse have the business. Phenomenal idea to set up an IRA because you're basically taking money from the business and putting it into your retirement account. And that's it, right? Like you're transferring money.
Right. Otherwise, you're paying taxes on it.
Well,
Yeah.
now you add an employee. Well, you're not allowed to not offer the employee the IRA, right? So like you're making decisions now because they're really good now. But if you grow to 20 people, do you still want to offer the IRA, right? Like, do you want to offer healthcare? Because
Well, I think if you're over 15 people, you have to. Or is it 50?
I think it's 50.
Is it 50?
Yeah.
50?
I think it's
Okay,
50.
50.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like there's all these things that you need to be able to have conversations with people about, right? And I think a tax strategist, a good banker, like a good banker, and a financial advisor that understands small business are three of the key people you need to have around once your business becomes profitable, right? Like if you're operating at a loss, you probably won't need them. But the first year, it looks like you're going to have a profit. Those are the three people you should seek out.
Yeah, and someone said, my friend of mine said to me years ago, like in my early 20s, always hire an accountant to do your taxes. Well, it's going to cost money. They will save you more money in your taxes than what you're going to wind up paying them anyway. And it has always been true. And it's the same thing here. You're thinking, well, I don't have the money to pay an accountant and a financial advisor. Trust me, they're going to save you more money than they're going to cost.
Yep. Yeah, I'll give you the example. The guy that I'm introducing today, the reason he freaked out was he got his estimated tax return from his CPA, and he was supposed to pay, I think, $62,000.
Oh.
And I called him, and I'm like, "Well, what if you could pay 30? Would that be better than that?" And he's like,
let me think. That would be half.
That would be half, right? And you could keep the other half. And he goes, "How is that possible?" And I'm like, "Well, you haven't filed yet, so there's a lot of things you can do going back a year.
Right.
That's like you can move money up until you file your return." And he's like, "Well, how do I do it?" And I'm like, "I don't know exactly how you do it." I'm like, "There's a reason I have people that know how to do it." So I'll introduce you to the person that knows how to do it, right?
You had told me about one of our friends. We're not going to promote it right now, but one of our friends who's a tax strategist helped another one of our friends a simple change in allocation of money. So, for example, this friend golfs every other week, if not more than that, but right? He does it for networking purposes. He invites clients out, invites prospective clients out, et cetera, et cetera. He had golf classified, I believe, as meals and entertainment, which is only 50% deductible.
Yes.
The tax strategist said, no, because you use it specifically for networking and to grow your business, it is a full deduction. It is networking opportunities, networking events, et cetera. That saves him how much in tax?
Well, It ended up being $3,000 or $4,000.
Yeah, that one
added.
change, that
Yes.
one simple change. So I just wanted to give people an example
Yeah.
of how you don't have to do anything differently.
Yep.
You don't have to change. Well, you don't have to like find numbers out of thin air.
Correct.
You sometimes just have to change your allocation of what you did with certain things.
You move it from point A to point B.
Yeah,
right?
legitimately, of
Yes.
course. But yes,
So
exactly.
I don't know if you ever listened to my other podcast, but I had someone on, CPA.
Yeah.
And she goes, "Oh, I had a guy come to me at $80,000 worth of guns and ammo that he had put on the business." And I went, "What?" Like,
Is he a shooting range?
no. And the ultimate question ended up becoming, can you justify this as a business expense?
Right.
And he looked at her and said, "We work in very dangerous areas in the cities." He's like, "All of my employees have concealed carry permits. And yes, we do range day once a month." He's like, "It's a safety issue for us."
Yeah.
And she goes, "Okay."
That's all. That's justified.
It's a legit expense, right?
And honestly, zombie apocalypse too.
Well, that one too, right? But it was weird because it wasn't in an industry where you thought that would be legit, right? Like, it's not like it was a security service.
Right.
They were something like, I don't know, plumbers or
But if you work in a bad area,
correct. So it's, once again,
look, let me tell you something. Those copper pipes sometimes are worth their weight in gold.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They get stolen before anything else.
Correct.
Because they're easy to.
There's a reason that stuff gets pulled from old houses.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So
But it's interesting.
if you like what you saw in the clips, don't forget to subscribe as well. Let us know what you think by leaving some information in the comments.